Great pleasure to invite back to the Women's Rugby Pod, Alana Thomas, Fiji Women's High Performance Manager and sort of GM of Fiji Women's Rugby. Off the back of a brilliant weekend, hoping we can call you a friend of the pod, Alana. How the devil are you?
I'm very well, Johnnie. Thanks for having me, and a big Yandra Manaka from the Fiji side of things.
Oh yeah, Bulla, Alana. What an amazing weekend! Look, we'll get into the weeds of that brilliant victory over Wales, which I don't know. Yeah, how's the heart rate? Is it still sort of pumping quite high?
Definitely was. That first half was really exhilarating, and the way we played. But yeah, the second half, you did have some heart-stopping moments. But I suppose that just demonstrates the growth and development that we've had in this period of time to be able to hang on. Where in the past we may not have been able to hang on. So just a credit to the girls, the players, and the staff for that work. But yeah, the heart rate has come down now, and I'm able to sleep.
Good. Well, look, you're in the UK. I understand off the back of the World Cup. Obviously, Fiji exiting after three brilliant pool games. How's England been for you? How's the experience of Rugby World Cup 25 been for you personally? You've been around a little while, so how's it sitting with you?
I definitely really enjoyed it, to be fair. The venues that we've had, the stadiums, the crowds that we've had have been fantastic. And the quality of rugby, we've increased to 16 teams. And I think there was some early criticisms around the scores in that first round, but I think the quality of games have been amazing. And the teams that have come in and the teams that have grown and seen the growth since New Zealand, it's been fantastic. So, and the venues that we've had, we were fortunate enough to be York, then to Manchester, and then down to Exeter. It's been a great experience. The whole professionalism around the transitions and everything like that. It's been a real step up, which has been fantastic and something that the players can see as well.
In terms of you personally, that group, that growth within a squad, from last time down in New Zealand to here, what have been the good bits? We were just talking off camera, and the few bits and pieces of World Rugby have done. What's really been excelled for you?
I think that the thing is, obviously, my role coming in has been there really to target and really drive the women's program in Fiji. We've obviously had Super Rugby, but at the last World Cup, but to consolidate that. But also, we were talking off camera. The Wales test was our 48th test for Fijiana. So in our history of women's rugby in Fiji, that was the 48th test. We haven't even hit 50 yet. And, I'm seeing players hitting 50, 100 tests. You hear seeing, Sarah Cox has just reached 50 test match tests, and we've only played 48. But of those, I went and checked the stat after we spoke. 27 of those tests have come since 2023. So 48 tests, 27 of them have come in this last sort of 3 year period, or 2 year period. It's just phenomenal. And then you look at what we're able to produce, and that's the exciting thing. And now for us, it's about getting consistency in our program, our staff. We've had a lot of changes in the period of time with coaches and staff. So the key thing out of this is to now cement and have some consistency, and that'll form all a part of our review going back into Fiji in the coming months.
Yeah, consistency is not a word that you associate with Fiji rugby across the board. I think that's fair to say. Um, but that is an unbelievable stat, and I know yeah, the stall that people put with you in that position is sort of an anchor to it all. Have the yeah, we'll continue to talk wider just for a moment or two more before we get into the games and the weeds of it. But have the challenges that come around Fiji and the geographical nature and the cultural nature and all that kind of stuff, with those increased amount of games, it becoming the norm, has that just made it much easier for you and what you're trying to achieve?
Yeah, I think obviously there is challenges there. Obviously, I think every union has challenges around the financial side of things, and I think it's about getting that consistency of test match, and the more test matches and exposure that we can get for the players and the staff is really important. And we've done a global calendar now till 2029. And we know that we've probably got 7 or so test matches locked in every year now going forward. And the key now is to make sure that we're maximising that, but also looking to get some exposure to some of these teams, such as the Northern Hemisphere teams. We played Scotland last year in Scotland as a really strategic move to go and play teams that will be playing and facing in World Cups, because you need to get diversity in terms of who you're playing, different styles of games. And if we're continuing just to play the Australias, Samoas, Tongas, we're not going to evolve. We got 2 tests to the US, or you test in US. So those challenges around the geographical nature and now opening it up is helping, but it comes back to that financial support, which I think everyone's fighting for sponsors and trying to get sponsors and assist in that. We've got great support from World Rugby. We've got great sponsors, and we've got really good support from the Fijian government that have helped us as well. So now it's about really making sure that we keep that consistent, and it's not just come World Cup years.
Well, that's massive. 7 locked-in tests each year. I mean, as you said that stat before, you get 48 test match in the history, and now you're doing sort of 7 a year. That's quite incredible. Look, let's look at the latest 3, shall we? Kicked off with Canada. They're a useful old side. How much of a shock was that to the gods? I mean, even just arriving at the ground and crowds and getting off the bus and the stadium being full and York was nice and vibrant and all the rest of it. Did they absorb it, or were they little rabbit in the headlights slightly?
No, I think they absorbed it, but it was obviously something that was very new to them. The only crowd they probably played at was as big or bigger than that was in the US probably 3 or 4 weeks beforehand. But yeah, it definitely was. It was one thing that we talked about before we came over with the players about what were some of the things that were on their minds around coming, and it was the crowds and the stadiums, and we did some really good things. Johan did some really good things around when we do our stadium runs and talking. Our mental skills coach talked about the crowd and the noise and how to manage that. So Canada are playing a great brand of rugby. They've gone into this tournament, I think, one of 3 teams that were undefeated. The style of rugby they're playing, they're physical, they can play fast. That sevens influence. Obviously, they've got a lot of sevens players. They work well. So I think you're playing the world number 2. We knew, and then we were the world 17 at that point. So we knew that we were going to have a tough battle on our hands, and it was a good test for us. But I think it set us up for Scotland and the rest of the tests, the rest of the 2 matches. So credit to Canada. We'll see how they go. They'll progress into the quarters, and we'll see how deep they go into the tournament. And we can hold our heads up high that we put on a really good performance in that first half, and then they sort of got away with it, just through some really good, brilliant technical and tactical play.
Yeah, I mean, if it goes to form, Canada and New Zealand semi-finals, that is going to be something else. Yeah, I've tipped Canada because I think they might have physically the best chance of beating England. Whether New Zealand mentally have the best chance of beating England, I don't know. Look, anyway, as you say, then you went into Scotland, which, as you say, you've been up there and had a battle against them. 29-15. That is, I mean, that's proper Test match rugby stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And I think when you look at the stats, if you look at the stats, we held a lot of possession. Scotland, to their credit, defended bravely. They were fantastic in their defence, and apart from those 2 early tries from a couple of our errors, we were in that match. And I think that the physicality that the team brought, and we were able to express ourselves. And again, I think we've had some great tries, and there's probably some tries of the tournament we'll be challenging for with some of them. The tries that we can score, turning defence into attack, that chaos that everyone talks about with Fijiana. But we were able to express ourselves within our structured framework, and I think that's something that we've got that balance right now. And it really gave those players some belief that we can match it with these top teams. And Scotland beat us by about 40 or 50 points this time last year, and to turn it around to be within two tries and at one point there within a score. Very, very courageous from our girls. I'm very proud of just how much growth we've had. to see that, but to see the belief, to see them playing a style and a brand of rugby that everyone gets excited about. And, the Scottish team, we spoke with Brian after the game, and it was a battle. He had some battered and bruised bodies, as did we. And that was a test match, and just a credit to both teams for that spectacle they put on in Manchester.
Yeah, look, and I've said it sort of earlier in this series of little pods and little episodes that we're doing, and you alluded to it earlier about those score lines. That's not the point. The point is you look back to Fiji at the last World Cup, if that's going to be your measuring stick, and how much the improvement has been made. So 29-15, I'm not sure. Scotland have held England to that kind of scoreline for certainly as long as I can remember. So it's that improvement, isn't it? And then you turn that battle-hardened Scotland performance into, I would say, one of the shocks of the tournament, because if you're feeling closer, then you're probably charting it into Wales 25-28. The scenes at the end told their own story. That is quite something for Fijiana rugby.
Oh, 100%. And, after that Canada game, the players took some hits on social media and the like. And, they came back with a performance against Scotland. And we took a lot of belief and that in our game and in ourselves into that match. And the players were keen to finish the tournament on a high. They'd seen what they were capable of doing. And, another stat that we looked at, I don't think we gave over 10 penalties in each game across this tournament, which is uncharacteristic of Fijiana. A lot of people will say we're an undisciplined team, but I think we gave away 8, 9, and maybe 9 or 8 against Wales. So we've changed that area of our game. We've been able to improve our defence. We've added some kicking into our game. It's still a work in progress, but we're starting to develop that and encourage the players to express themselves, and the environment for them to express themselves and show the world and inspire people. And, that game against Wales, we were right from when we finished Scotland, it was always that target. We knew that we would be capable of winning it, and that if we followed how we'd been playing and that obviously working within the structure that Johan had sort of set, that we were capable of doing it. And the way they started was outstanding. Some great tries. Obviously, we were behind early, but then we see a charge down of a goal kick. These are the differences. 3 points in the game. We get a charge down on a goal kick. We score 3 or 4 tries in the first half. Again, something that we haven't done in a very long time. And this game, we walk off at half time, and it's like, right now we've got to recompose ourselves. And we came out and we stayed in a fight under immense pressure at the end. And again, I go back to that discipline stat. Most teams would have thought we would have gave away 2 or 3 penalties in that space. I think we gave away 1 or 2, but then we got the steal at the end. Josie, our centre, scores 2 tries, and then she says at the end of the game, the biggest moment was getting that steal at the end of the game, which allowed us to finish the game off. It just shows the growth. And we've only got an average age, I think, in this group of 25, I think it is. So if we can keep these players together for the next 3 years, as I said, consistency in playing group, consistency in staffing, and consistency of program support, this team could do a South Africa at the next one. And our goal was obviously to make the quarters. We knew we were in a really tough pool. Everyone says Pool A was the pool of death. I think Pool B was the pool of death.
Agreed.
Three top, 2 Six Nations and the number 2 team, and we're 17th, and we come out with a win and the improvement on field. For me, that's a pretty successful campaign for Fijiana for where we're at.
You do yourself a disservice, Alana. It's an outstanding campaign. It's an absolutely outstanding. And what's particularly impressed me, and what we'll kind of talk about the sort of the personality of the Fijiana in a second, if we may, but is that resilience, because you can have your flashpoints, and they are, as we know, the best in the world. The natural ability to get the ball out away from contact and running lines, and it's just so natural. But that's all very well. But if you're dipping in and out, our teams are going to come back. But it's that resilience to stick to a game plan, stick to structures, to play within that framework. And when there's that chance to express and whatever, then you're doing it. But that's not just a physical thing; it's a mental thing as well. That's what really impressed me about this side.
Yeah, and we invested in that. That was a big thing that came out of sort of the review out of the New Zealand World Cup, and then our subsequent reviews that we did when I first came in 23. It was one of the big areas that we needed to look at, and we engaged with a mental skills coach that had worked with our men's sevens in Tokyo and had some success, and we engaged with him for this last sort of 6 months to assist with that, and just again, just drip feeding little bits in about how to do it. Yoan coming in was fantastic as well. So we had some really good professionals. Obviously, we had some support with World Rugby with some S&C work, myself in my role. So we had some really good support. We had, player wellbeing in terms of from Pacific Rugby players. So we'd put some good supports around the team, and I think created an environment that was different to what they'd had before. It was about encouraging them to be themselves, to express themselves, and to play without fear. And when you see that happen and you see them free up, and again, you talk about personality of the team, but everyone gets nervous when Fiji are laughing and singing and having a great time because they're
Yeah.
relaxed and they're confident. And that's what we saw from this team. And that's a credit to everyone involved. But obviously, the mental resilience, we did do a lot of work and had a couple of sessions before the Scotland game and the Wales game, really just about really focused, really narrow focus on what we needed to do. And I think just that just was a big game changer for the team and something that we'll continue to work on as we go forward.
Yeah, we touched there on sort of the building blocks, the foundations of rugby. It doesn't matter where you're from in the world. You've got to have. You've spoken about discipline. We talk about defense. We talk about set piece. Those who've got exponentially better since the last World Cup, and you sort of threw a bouquet there to Yoan and sort of improving that and creating that environment. Just what was he like? We saw his celebration on the final whistle. Of course, the former Wales boss himself. He must have been absolutely delighted, wasn't he?
I think he's just delighted because he's formed a great connection with our group, and he, we recruited him back just around Christmas time last year, and we didn't get him
Yeah.
on island till March. He's only had really 5 months on island. He really didn't take charge of them until sort of May, so he's had 4 or 5 months with this group, and to see the improvements that we've got. I think it's credit to him, to his vision, and that was one of the big reasons for recruiting him with such a short window was to have a head coach that's coached internationally, coached in the World Cup, has a real clear vision on how you want to play, but also has come in and embraced what is Fijiana rugby, and we talk about that balance. We've got the balance of the DNA of Fijiana and Fiji rugby within a framework of structure that will allow them to express themselves and get them in positions to really unlock that DNA. And I think that's been really important. And I think obviously, there probably was a little bit of, who we were playing as well, but I think it was just more about seeing the players get success and to see the hard work that they put in and some of the things and sacrifices and the things they've had to deal with. To see them win and to see that reaction is just a credit to the culture and environment we've created. And I think, he was obviously very, very happy. His wife and son were there in full Fijiana kit, and they're a part of the Vivale now, the Fijiana Vivale. They've been in and around, and he's really embraced the culture, trying to learn words and speak to them and praise them in Fijian. And there's still little giggles when they hear him say it because it's just so weird hearing him say it. But it just shows just where we're at as a team, and the team I think had a little bit of extra motivation for him, to make sure that they did their absolute best to perform. And I think that's where that emotion sort of came from, was for the coach, for the country. They're representing their families, their villages, they're inspiring those little girls, one of our a couple of our players were like 16 at the last World Cup, watching it at home, watching Fijiana play, and they wanted to be there. And then they're pulling on the jersey at this World Cup. So reminding them there's little girls and boys in Fiji now that have watched this and want to play, will want to play rugby.
Lana, stop it. You're making me emotional. Genuinely, it's lovely because that's what it's all about. Yeah, we can do cowboy hats and braids and all the rest of it, but actually inspiring the next generation in a rugby mad country that you can get there and you can achieve such brilliant things. And I'm World Rugby have a lot of stuff thrown at them, and actually they deserve full credit here, don't they? Because the funded the campaign and the program and put yourself in, and you deserve a huge amount of credit. And I hope you've had a moment or two just by yourself, just to pat yourself on the back, because creating that environment has come down from you, and full credit to you, because it's been an absolute joy to watch on and off the field. They really have been, and full credit to you.
But like I said, I was very bit emotional on Saturday. It was definitely emotional, watching them play and leading and getting there. And you sort of, yeah, there was probably a few tears behind my sunglasses at the end of the game, and just to see the joy in everyone's face and their body language, it was amazing. So, it just shows what we can do and just what we do when you do invest in programs and put the work into them, and you get that reward. So I think it's only onwards and upwards from here.
Just finally, because I'm conscious of your time. Look, genuinely wet eyes. And yeah, I know how much you love this game and how passionate you are, and to be able to translate that to the Fijiana is just magic. How does Fiji get to a quarterfinal next time? What needs to happen? Outside of the 7 locked-in games, what else needs to happen?
I think it's just consistency in our staffing, our player contracts, is probably the big thing, and is really about locking our staff in, for the next cycle, and giving them time together. So, the team that we brought together, we had, I think, 18 staff over there, and we had probably before a little as 2 to 3 weeks before we left, we still had some changes in staff and in our group. So I think consistency and giving them a really good time of this next cycle to prepare, is really important, and then locking away our players and making sure that they're contracted for the next 3 years, and locking that group in, and the next group of players coming through is probably the big thing for the group that we've got now. But also we've got a schoolgirls group that we've just picked from our schoolgirls comp that finished earlier in August. We've picked a group of girls from that got tested while we were away, and now really bringing them through, because those 18-year-olds will be the players that will be pushing for selection in 2029. So that's exciting. So it's really about getting consistency, having a really clear strategy through to 2029, continuing to work with our sevens program, which we had 4 sevens players here. So making sure that we're really working together and aligned, which both coaches and myself have been doing a lot of work on since they joined in March. So again, that alignment and that consistency and real clear plan for the next 3 years is really important. And then I think we can come into the next World Cup in a really good place. And as I said, South Africa, credit to South Africa. They've done some great things, and they're reaping the rewards. And hopefully for our Pacific sisters in Samoa, the Manu Sinner team, that we can work together within the Pacific to help them grow when Ramsey goes back to being the GM. We can help work with them to make sure that they get stronger as well. And the Pacific are producing good talent. They're going to produce great rugby, and I think it's really important for the game.
Oh, listen, ladies and gentlemen, she can't stop giving, Alana Thomas. She can't stop giving to the game she absolutely loves. Look, Lynn Canwell gets a huge amount of credit, and rightly so. She's weaved some spells over in South Africa before now, sort of coming over to Ireland. But you deserve just as much, Alana. And from sort of first connecting with you, always watch exactly what you're up to. And you're one of those people who just quietly goes about their business, but it's so effective behind the scenes. And yeah, that a World Cup performance and that victory over Wales, yeah, can sit firmly with you. So huge congratulations as ever, an absolute pleasure to speak to you.
Thank you, Johnny. It's always a pleasure to speak to you, and I hope I can catch up with you in person at one of the knockout stages. But again, it's been great to see you back up and running and getting all those people and interviews across this tournament. So thank you for your support of the women's game.
Oh, great! Yeah, let's do a bit. If I get accreditation, that's still in the balance. But yeah, let's do that. Let's book in a bit. Alana Thomas, high performance manager, Fijiana women. Thank you so much.
Wanaka level.